This is Algebra 2. Standard is OASA 2813. Objective is the student will solve and graph inequalities in one variable. Okay, and you've done this in the past, so it'll be a little review. Hopefully this makes sense. There'll be a corresponding worksheet or two that goes with it. I was about to say, if you have any questions, stop me and I'll be happy to answer them, but here I am filming myself. So hopefully this will make sense. Solve and graph. We're trying to solve an inequality. What I want to do first, there are a couple of ways we could do this. What I'm going to do is just show you one way that'll work every single time. And you can do that, and you might see somebody else do it a different way, and you can ask them about it. But a lot of times kids just like to take this 4 that's outside this set of parentheses, we call that a quantity, and they just like to distribute what's outside the quantity throughout the quantity using the distributive property. And that's as good a way to start as any. You don't have to do it that way, but you can. So we're going to multiply both of those terms by 4. 4 times 8 is 32. So 4 times 8n is 32n. Plus 4 times 4 is 16. Is greater than 176. This is where our inequality comes in. We're going to wind up with a variable that is bigger than some number, as you may remember. Okay. Now I want to just get n by itself by solving it exactly the same way we solve equations. The only thing we have to watch out for is when we multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative value. It's only true if we're multiplying or dividing. The direction of the inequality changes. We just have to remember that. And you'll see it a couple of times throughout the course of the next couple of lectures, and I'll point that out when it happens. Okay? In this case, since we're just subtracting 16, that won't change the direction, only if you multiply or divide. So I'm going to subtract 16, rewrite the inequality. 32n is greater than 160. Is that what that is? And then we're going to divide both sides by 5. Since we're dividing by a positive number, that won't change the direction. So I'm dividing by 32. I said 5. We're dividing by 32. And I did that in my head and got 5. Hopefully that's right. I'm going to check it with the calculator because my arithmetic is off sometimes. N is greater than 5. Get my handy dandy pocket brain around here somewhere. Somewhere I have a calculator. What I did with my calculator, we may never know. Here it is. 160 divided by 32. 5, yay. So here is our solution of the inequality. But it says solve and graph. Now you're going to be doing multiple choice problems, so you're going to do this. And to graph this, we just draw a little number line. We locate 5 wherever we want it. I like to show where 0 is too. I mean, if this is 5 and 0 is over here to the left, it's not necessary, but I like to. Then, because it doesn't say or equal to, there's not a little line under here that says greater than or equal to, we put an open circle on it, we don't fill it in. And then we ask ourselves, where are all the numbers bigger than 5? Well, that would be to the right. So that's the direction I shade. That's solving an inequality in one variable. We solve and graph the inequality in one variable. So we saw that we could open some parentheses, so we did. And then we solved it just like it was an equation. Alrighty. On this next one, we're asked to do the same thing. It's the same instructions, solve and graph. So what I'm going to do is I see my variables over here. I've got a couple of them. Before I can combine these like terms, I've got to distribute this -3. So I'm going to open these parentheses and then combine like terms. Remember that this 3, when I distribute this 3, I'm multiplying it by both of these, and this negative sign stays with the 3. That's a -3 that I'm distributing throughout that quantity. So this will give me 86. Don't get in a hurry, just rewrite the whole thing. Is greater than -15k, -3 times 5, plus 9. Now the plus comes in because I've got -3 times -3. This minus sign in between these two is to the left of 3. That makes the 3 negative. So I've got -3 times -3 is 9. Then we open to the parentheses. That means they've disappeared. And we bring down the 4k and combine like terms. And I see that these two will combine. And so I'm going to rewrite the whole thing again, because I'm not in a hurry. I'm trying to get the right response. Negative 15K plus 4K, what is that, negative 11K? And this plus 9 won't combine with anything, so I just bring it down. Now I've got two things I want to do here. I want to get this K by itself, I want to subtract 9 from both sides, and then divide both sides by negative 11. And I'm going to be dividing by a negative, so when that happens, I got to remember I'm going to change the direction of my inequality. So here we go, I'm going to move this up a little bit so I don't run out of room. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. I'm going to rewrite 86 minus 9 is what, 77? Is less than negative 11K. Now I want to divide both sides by negative 11. If you multiply or divide an inequality by a negative value, the direction of your inequality is always going to change. So when I divide by negative 11, I usually do this so I won't forget when I go to rewrite it. This gives me negative, what is that, 7? This reminds me to change the direction of my inequality, and then this will be positive K. Negative 11 divided by negative 11. Negative divided by negative is positive. 11 divided by 11 is 1. 1 times K is K. And personally, I mean, we could graph it right now, but personally I like to put my variable on the left. This is going to look like I'm changing the direction, but I'm not. Notice how this is open towards the K. This is still open towards the K. I'm just rewriting it with the variable on the left. That's a matter of personal preference. You don't have to do that. If you're comfortable with this and you can graph that correctly, that's fine with me. However, I just personally like to put my variable on the left, and then when I go to graph it, all I have to do is locate negative 7 on the number line. Well, if this is 0, for instance, then negative 7 would be somewhere to the left. And we're going to put an open circle on it because it doesn't say or equal to. There's no line under here. And all values bigger than negative 7 will be to the right of negative 7 on the number line. So we shade the number line, not above it, not below it, but on the number line, and we shade the arrow. And then since we're doing multiple choice, you would go to your choices and find this combination. You would want this for the solution and this for the graph. Okay. Here we go. So we've done 2 solving and graphing. We've got one more. So here we go. We're going to try to solve and graph this inequality in one variable. And first thing I see is I'm going to distribute this negative 5. Don't forget this minus sign. When you're distributing, that minus sign travels with the 5, so to speak. You can think of it that way. I'm going to multiply this by negative 5 and this by negative 5, and those parentheses are going to disappear. I'm going to rewrite the entire thing. Negative 8n minus 30n. See what I did there? I multiplied negative 5 times 6. That's negative 30n. Plus 40. Because I'm multiplying negative 5 times negative 8. That minus sign to the left of that 8 means that that 8 is negative. And so negative 5 times negative 8 is positive 40, is less than negative 188. Now all I have to do here is combine my like terms without making any mistakes, hopefully, and then solve this using an equation method. And we solve them just like they're equations. We've got to watch out if we multiply or divide by a negative, the direction of the inequality changes. Otherwise, we treat them very much like we solve equations. These are the same sign. I'm going to combine these like terms right here. That'll give me negative 38n plus 40. This won't combine because it's not an n term. Is less than negative 188. Now I'm going to subtract 40 from both sides and then divide both sides by negative 38. And I got to remember when I do that to change the direction of my inequality. So here I go. Subtracting 40 from both sides. Rewriting my inequality. Negative 38n is less than, what is that, negative 148? No, that's, we got to add those. They're both negative. 188 plus 40. I'll do that in my head, but I'll goof it up. 228 negative. They're the same sign, so I'm going to add them together and keep the sign. We're adding or subtracting. You add if they're the same sign and keep the sign. Now I'm dividing by negative 38. When I divide by a negative 38, the direction of my inequality is going to change. Okay, so here we go. This becomes n. Negative 38 divided by negative 38 is 1. 1 times n is n. Over here, whatever happens is my answer. It's going to be positive, I know that. 228 divided by 38 is 6. So n is greater than 6. Negative divided by negative is positive. I changed the direction of my inequality. I forgot to change it. I changed the direction of my inequality because I divided by a negative. And if I were going to graph this, I would just locate 0. I know that 6 is to the right of 0. I would put an open circle on it again because it's not or equal to. If it had a bar under a little line under it, it would be a filled-in circle. And we shade everything to the right, including the arrow. Okay, so that's how we solve. Whoops, we don't fill in that circle. Sorry about that. That circle shouldn't be filled in because there's not a bar there. I got all carried away, didn't I? I do make mistakes. I try not to, but I'm a human being. I make mistakes too. This should be open because there's no or equal to symbol there. This is just n, all values greater than 6. 6 is not greater than itself, so it's not part of the set. Okay? All right, so let's look at what we got here real quick. We're going to solve and graph inequalities in one variable. Basically, in this case, we just opened parentheses. We got rid of whatever's added or subtracted, and we got rid of whatever's multiplied or divided. And then we tried not to make any arithmetic mistakes along the way, and we graphed it. Then, multiple choice situations, you would look for this combination in your 4 or 5, however many choices. In this case, I had to open parentheses first, then combine like terms because I had 2 k terms on one side of the inequality symbol. And so just like it was an equation, if you have like terms, combine them. That's just a rule of thumb in algebra. If you have like terms, combine them. So I combined them. And then I said, okay, I want to get this k by itself, so I subtracted 9 from both sides. And then I divided both sides by negative 11. And when I divided by a negative, that changed the direction of my inequality. And I personally like to put my variable on the left, so I rewrote it. Notice that it's still open towards the k and pointing towards negative 7, pointing toward. So it says the same information. I just like the k on the left. It's easier for me to personally read that way. When you graph it, this is all numbers bigger than negative 7. That's to the right on the number line. And we did much the same thing here. Opened the parentheses. Negative times positive is negative. Negative times negative is positive. Combined like terms. Subtracted 40. Divided by negative 38, which once again changed the direction of our inequality. And then we graphed it. So that is a quick introduction to solving inequalities in one variable and graphing them. You'll find on the Google Classroom, you'll find a worksheet or two. Best of luck.